Hi guys, today we're going to talk about the planning factors that go into your bug out bag. This is going to include things like finding out your unique situation, your location, what type of emergency you're going to plan for. Everybody needs to think about their own unique characteristics when they plan their bug out bag. The stuff that's in our kit may not be the same that's in your kit depending on what part of the United States we live in, what the weather is like, what our experiences are, what our training is, stuff like that. Let's get to it. First, you need to think about your location. Your location is going to determine what kind of resources you have and also what kind of restrictions you might have. My family live in a fairly rural section of Texas. We live on 15 acres. We have about 1,000 acres behind us that's uninhabited. It's got great streams, great wildlife, very wooded areas where we can camp, we can hide. People are not going to bother us very much. Your location may be different. If you're up north and it's wintertime, you may not want to camp out. It may be too cold. Your location is going to also determine how you dress, what weapons to carry, and how you interact with other people. What I mean by that is, if you're in downtown Chicago, you're not going to want to dress in fatigues, carry a pack with an AR-15 on you. It may sound fun, it may sound cool, you may think that's going to deter people, but when you look like that, people are going to know that you have something to protect, and they're going to come after you. Also consider that your location, if you're told to evacuate, if you have to travel, that's going to be your starting point. If you're in downtown Atlanta and they tell you got to get out, how are you going to do that? Do you have bicycles? Do you have motorcycles, cars, trucks? Are you going to have to ride a bus? Are you going to have to walk? A lot of that can go into your planning. If you're walking, you're obviously going to spend a lot of time. It may take you a couple of days to get out. If you think the traffic's going to be bad and you're going to be stuck in traffic, you may want to pack some extra gasoline. Make sure that you've got plenty of fuel on hand to get yourself out. For example, if you live in an apartment in Chicago, your first occurrence is definitely going to be security. If people know that you have food, water, shelter, anything that might be of use, they're going to try to come after you. Simple fact of the matter. You look at the riots of Katrina, you look at stuff like that's happened all over the place, and you see people that constantly revert to the worst of society when they become stressed like that. So you need to decide in that situation whether you're going to stay home and protect what you got, or whether you need to head out and try to find a secure location. Things that are going to go into your decision on that are: what's the weather like? Where can you go to find food, shelter, and water security? If you're in downtown Chicago in a high-rise apartment building, that's going to be awful tough. You may have some water locally that you can use. You may be able to scrounge some food, but you got to remember there's millions of people that are doing the same thing. It's not impossible. It just needs a different set of planning. Say for somebody that lives in Wyoming, that can go out and shoot an antelope the first day that there's a problem, can find drinkable water in just about any stream with no problem, has plenty of firewood and plenty of space. Just something to consider. The second thing you want to think about is your situation. Everybody's situation is going to differ. I have a wife and 2 young kids. You may be single. You may have just a spouse. You may have dogs, cats, animals. You may have an elderly person that you care for. That's going to determine also how you travel. If it were me myself, I know that I can cover a certain amount of miles in a day, even with a fairly heavy pack. But tagging along my 8-year-old and my 5-year-old kid, things are gonna slow down. We're gonna need to camp more. We're gonna need to drink more. We also need to pack some entertainment types things: decks of cards, books, even a blanket, favorite pillow, favorite toy, something like that. That type of situational awareness is going to dictate what goes in your bag, as well as your planning on evacuation routes, food storage, stuff like that. You might also want to consider: do you need to get to somewhere? Do you have an elderly mother or father that would need you to go get them to bring them to safety, or anything like that? Something to consider. A lot of people seem to think that, I could go out in the woods and survive on my own for a week or two at a time. And until you've actually done that, it's something that's very easily said, but that's a lot harder to do in reality. People tend to go a little stir crazy when they're on their own. They don't like being by themselves. So if it's just you and your family, can you make it? Would you have to find other families to form secure groups, or to to care for one another? Would somebody be a good partnership if they knew how to create electricity or had some food that you could trade for, anything like that? Everybody's situation is unique. Just take that into consideration when you're planning for your bug out bag. The types of emergencies vary, and you need to kind of consider what you're planning for and what the possibilities are in your area. For example, do you live in a flood zone, or do you live in a fire zone such as California? Maybe even a nuclear type of accident. The ship channel of Houston is a prime target. If something were to happen there, what would we do? There's different types of emergencies, and there's different scopes of emergencies, and you need to plan for those as well. For example, the kind of lowest is a single residence type of emergency. That would be, for example, if you were at work today and your house burned down. Now, that's not necessarily an evacuation type of situation, or where you have to go stay in the woods for a week and survive on squirrels and nuts and pine cones and stuff like that. But you know, if you went to a hotel or a local friend or a relative or anything like that, you would still want your bag that had your paperwork, some money, even a change of clothes would come in handy. There's no too small situation where you wouldn't want to have that stuff with you. Just think of it as you're not being able to return to your house for a couple of days, even though maybe your neighbors are okay or anything like that. That way you've got everything that you could possibly need, your paperwork, stuff like that on you. You can grab it at a moment's notice and know that you have that security with you. We've seen more and more some community type problems. For example, if there was a chemical spill at a plant in your neighborhood and the police came by and said you needed to evacuate, or a large wildfire like in Texas or in California has a lot. In this scenario, you would have to get out somehow. Now, your neighbors, your fellow residents and stuff like that are going to be doing the same thing, so it's going to be a little chaotic. Plan for traveling, especially by foot. If you can get out by car, by motorcycle, by bike, even horseback, anything like that is very good, but in a worst case scenario, you want to plan for traveling by foot, maybe having to sleep outdoors. You still want your paperwork, your change of clothes, even some food and water is handy in that type of scenario. Think of things like Katrina, the tornadoes out in Joplin, Missouri, and the Texas fires that we had here a while back. People were told 5 to 10 minutes you've got to get what you can grab and get out of your house. Now, if you're not prepared, I mean, what do you grab? Maybe you grab a set of clothes, maybe you grab a file with your important paperwork in it. It's much easier to have that stuff prepared and ready to go. And you just grab the whole bag, and you know that everything's in there. You know that anything that you need is ready to go at a moment's notice. The final thing you want to prepare for is kind of the full-blown shit hits the fan scenario. Hopefully this never happens. The old saying goes, though, you can hope in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up first. That's my scenario. That's my thinking on this type of scenario. I'd rather be prepared for it and not have it come than not be prepared for it and have it show up one day. So, for example, imagine that you woke up tomorrow morning and the supermarket had no food, the gas station had no gas, and you absolutely had no heat in your house, you had no power, no running water, you had to leave. So now you're looking at extended periods, maybe of staying outdoors. You're going to have to find food either through hunting, scavenging, trapping, fishing, anything like that. Water is going to be your most important resource that you need to find, and find it quickly. And you're going to need to provide for your own security. In this type of scenario, you see all kinds of things from rioting to looting to bands of gang members that want to take whatever you have, even your own life. In this type of scenario, think civil unrest like in Katrina that you saw. Think of a government breakdown. Think about the tsunamis that we had, and you have these huge natural disasters. This kind of scenario is generally where there's a breakdown in the government and a breakdown in the supply of goods. Don't get caught with your pants down. Make sure that you're prepared for this scenario just in case. If you prepare for this scenario, anything else will be child's play. If you're ready to go in a moment's notice and be able to spend a week, say, out in the woods with you and your family, know that you have plenty of water or the ability to find water. You have plenty of food or the ability to find food. and you can make your own shelter, and create your own security, then any other scenario should be just child's play for you. It should be nice and easy. So, in conclusion, when you plan, you don't need to necessarily plan for the worst, but you might as well do that. And then, like I said, everything else is child play. Make sure you consider all of the scenarios that might be possible for your situation and location. You won't ever get them all, but the more you think about it, the more you'll be prepared for whatever life throws in your way. Make sure you plan evacuation routes, camping sites, secure locations. Have multiples of these in case everybody else looks at a map and says the same thing. Wow, wouldn't it be great to go over to this guy's backyard? He's got 1,000 acres and there's probably a bunch of deer that we could shoot and a bunch of water that we can harvest in there. So make sure that you've got different areas you can go to if you need them. And in conclusion, the only thing I can say is plan for the worst and hope for the best. All right, guys, take care and stay safe.